welcome to this special edition of Hot Current here on Times TV, where we are going to be discussing the recent 2018 Cabinet Assessment, as brought to you, of course, by the Sunday Times paper, which is produced by the Times Group. So this is a special edition, as I've said, which means we are joined, of course, by one of our regular Hot Current guests, the Times Group Editor-in-Chief, George Kasakula, and, of course, as well as my colleague, Elvis, HowaHowa. And the point of this program is for us to analyze and indeed critique the performance of the cabinet and indeed the president over the course of 2017 right through to 2018. It's been a very interesting year. Lots of things to talk about: energy crises, education in shambles, finance minister being under criticism for all manner of things. So it's been a very, very hectic 12 months or so. All the more reason why we wanted to come together and look at where these ministries did well, where they performed better, but also where they could do far more. Thank you for joining us, George Kasakula, on this special edition of Hot Current.
Thank you very much, Wezi.
It's funny because I'm used to seeing you with Brian.
Yes.
But it's a special edition today.
It's a special edition of
Hot
Current. It's on the cabinet assessment.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's start with just a brief summary. We'll start with the president, generally speaking.
Yes.
You say that he had a very bright start initially. He showed a lot of promise in terms of where the cabinet was going and the direction he was going with his cabinet. He made a lean cabinet of 20 people, and we all thought, right, great. It means he's on course for great things.
Yes.
But then, of course, later on, along the lines, he started to show certain traits of perhaps favoritism and rewarding allies, I think is what we call it.
Exactly.
Why would you say that?
The key promise that the president has made is the one that you're referring to, the fact that he has maintained a 20-member cabinet. I think through and through, this is our fourth assessment of his cabinet, that he has maintained. So at least that promise he has kept. But when it came to governing itself, that's where the problem has been. And largely, our viewpoint is that probably the president, apart from his own weaknesses, decision making, slow to react to things, allowing friends probably to do whatever they want, not following through on issues of corruption, for example, the nepotism that you talked about. Apart from that, he himself, at the end of the day, it's down to him, isn't it? It's down to him as president. He's the one that we all think about in this country. Everything stops at him.
All right. So before we go into the details of the score, Elvis, any comments on the summary that we've just laid out there?
I'd like to ask Mr. Kasakula, what about, you touched on the matter of a lean cabinet.
Correct.
Hasn't that made it possible for the DPP administration to save some funds?
It has saved some funds. But when you look at the cabinet 20, but when you look at the number of assistants that the president has, for example, you tend to wonder whether he really needs them for work, or it's just a question of rewarding political loyalty. I think most Malawians think that it's the latter. The latter is the reason, because he seems to be piling them up. But when you look at the job that he's supposed to do, the minister that is supposed to have, for example, gender. He has a home minister of gender. Why would he have an advisor on gender? Then you have advisor on unity. What does it mean? You advisor on unity. Which unity is he talking about? So there's so many. Then you look at the staff at the State House. So many people that are there. You don't think they're really adding value to the taxpayer, but they're just there to reward political loyalty. Okay,
George. Let's go into the score now. So you've scored the president, or rather here at Times Group, we've scored the president a 5 out of 10.
Correct.
I'm actually quite surprised that you gave him a 5 out of 10. Given how poorly he performed, I actually expected that we would give him an even lower score. But you have said that he started off on a good note, and perhaps that was his saving grace.
Yes.
But then there's been other issues, of course. His delay to react to major issues. After he came into power, there was, of course, serious floods. We saw a delay in his reaction to that. We've also seen corruption under his watch completely spiral out of control.
That's right.
Yet we're still giving him a 5.
Well, I think the 5 is on account of the lean cabinet. It's the lean cabinet that he has got the 5, and I think consistently throughout the years that has been what has pushed him up. Otherwise, for the rest of things, I think Malawi is still what it was 10 years ago. There's nothing moving. You're talking of the laissez-faire attitude. You're talking of his delays in making a decision. It's a decision has to be literally gleaned from him, literally forced from him.
Pride out of his
Yeah,
mouth.
exactly. So that kind of thing. Then nepotism under his watch, the corruption that you are talking about, that it has flourished, the laissez-faire attitude that is in government. Then apart from cabinet blowing the number of assistants, that has tended to kind of lower the marks that he.
Talking about corruption, Mr. Kasakula, very briefly. We've seen the president making announcements recently that the ACB and other institutions should pounce on the 236 billion kwacha matter to investigate and come to the bottom of it. Wasn't that a good decision? From the
Very, very, very positive. But so what? Has anything been done? You're talking of 236 billion. That's something that we have talked about for the past 2-3 years. Files are piling from Auditor General to ACB. Do we see anything coming out of those files? We don't. That's why in the end, people still doubt his sincerity. So I think, to me, apart from saying he should do more, if he can do more, if we can see him pouncing on his friends that are corrupt, probably this 5 he can improve.
All right.
next
Just to conclude that one, George, I mean, given that he is the man in command, he
Yes.
is the first man, effectively, and all these things are happening under his watch, like you said, decisions, an education crisis, floods, then there's the financial crisis, corruption, but yet, you've clearly said, he shows a very laissez-faire attitude
Exactly.
to address these issues.
Exactly.
Is a 5 really fair? As
Well,
in, should he not have got an even lower score, given that he is the man at the helm of all this?
I keep on saying that probably, I hear what you're saying, that probably the 5 should have been lower. But I think the only thing that we keep on eroding him with a 5 is because of lean cabinet.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Even though you yourself said that doesn't really make any difference if
Well,
the cabinet is not performing.
Well, there's clearly a difference between a cabinet and his assistants. To me, if he can
but
just...
they're not performing.
They are not performing. I mean, I don't see the need for having
All right.
assistants. Yes.
Okay, let's move on. Vice President Elvis.
Okay, yeah. We'll be now talking about the Vice President. That's Dr. Salos Chidima. The Times Group has given him a score of 7 out of 10. Now, this is mostly coming about because of his task of being the Minister of Disaster Management Affairs.
Correct.
But one would ask, apart from that, what else is he doing?
That's the problem. The problem is that he has been alienated. He doesn't have control over anything. The only thing that he has control over is the portfolio that he has been given, the one of disaster. So that's where the problem is. It's an odd problem where vice presidency and their presidents have not been, for whatever reason, we don't know what happens in government. Because as far as I can remember, it's only Muluzi and Malewezi that really work together. Even for Muluzi and Malewezi, at the end of the 10-year period that they served as president,
fell foul of
they
each
fell
other.
foul of it. The reason was succession. Then they came Bingu and Chirumpa, problem. Bingu and Joyce Banda, problem. Joyce Banda and Kajale, problem. Today we have Peter Mutharika and Saul Sima, problem.
Right.
It looks like the issue of succession. Vice presidents are systematically alienated. And because of that, they have no clout, they have no control, they have no real authority. And I think that's what has befallen Chidima.
So do you think it's a case of only needing these vice presidents as a running mate to kind of bolster their chances to win the presidency in the first place? And then after that, it's like they're kind of discarded. So is it always strategic? Because that's what you're suggesting.
I think if you ask these vice presidents at the end of their terms, most of them feel exactly that.
That they're used.
Yeah, they feel used, yes. I've heard 1 or 2 of them saying all they wanted from us is to balance the ticket so that we could get them the votes. As soon as we have the votes, we are discarded. So yes, you're right.
Let's look a little bit deeper into his role as the minister now of disaster management. If we're going back a little bit, he's been there for people, going to places where there've been disasters.
Disasters, yes. He's not been afraid to put on his boots
giving assistance. What has this done?
and the
to-
khaki attire. Yes.
What has this done to his image as the vice president?
Well, obviously, it's good image. I mean, he has been everywhere. He's done good PR. He's done good, media presence. He walks in the water in gun boots, and he's put on khaki. He's talking to victims and what. That has done him good. And probably disaster response is not as bad as it was in the past, as far as this country is concerned. As soon as disaster strikes, we see his face. People get the reassurance. The victims are helped by government. So the reaction has been very, very quick. And that has done him good.
But you have in your assessment, you have criticized him of only alienating himself to the Catholic Church. What's that got to do with anything?
Well, he's vice president of this country. And being vice president carries with it responsibilities. You've got to be seen to be for everyone. So we like him when we see him going to church, but we want to see also, I'm sure Malawians want to see also him going to mosques, attending Muslim functions, going to the other churches, the Presbyterians and what have you, the Pentecostals, so that we see him as a national figure. He must project that nationhood. That's why in the end he has lost some marks. We've given him a 7. Probably he should have, if he probably needed maybe 8. Because when you look at
Really, George?
Because
Wait a minute.
Oh,
Okay, let me stop you there, George. We are critiquing these individuals, and we heavily criticize, for example, the president. We pointed out a number of glaring areas where he is subpar in terms of his performance. Saulos Chidima, credit where it's due, is being renowned for his work on disaster management, which is one area. Is that really enough to warrant a 7, and even more so an 8, as you're alluding to?
The other thing is
Disaster management, and that's it?
No, not that's it. Is the forthrightness in speaking about wrongs in us. He went to Sanje and he talked about the dike. He didn't paper over it. He simply said this is substandard. We shouldn't be doing things like this. So that and then he projects a sense of competence which lacks in this government. He seems that attitude that he brought from the private sector is that has endeared him to Malawians, in my view.
We're portraying him as somewhat of a maverick in some ways.
That's right. That's right.
But is that enough? Is it making a difference to the development of this country?
From the part that he's doing, from the responsibility that he has been given, it has made a difference. I think disasters are better managed.
That's right.
You see a face in disasters when they strike. A government face comes quickly. In fact, now I think even the president has stopped going to visit disaster victims because I think he has decided that my vice is doing enough.
Could also be that he looks better on camera anyway. So.
Well, I don't know. That's your opinion, Wezi. I don't want to get involved in that sort of language.
All right, you're watching a special edition of the Cabinet Assessment here on Times TV, where we're taking a look, we're analysing the Democratic Progressive Party cabinet under President Peter Mutharika. So we've just taken a look at the president and, of course, his vice, Dr. Saulos Chidima. We're now moving on to the Minister of Education. That's Mr. Brighton Msaka. Where's he?
That's right. Okay, so Brighton Msaka was moved from the Ministry of Energy. I must admit, George, he probably thought that was a bit of a relief. Given the energy crisis that we're experiencing now,
yes.
I'm sure he's breathing a sigh of relief that this is not
correct.
happening under his watch.
Correct.
That being said, he also inherited an education sector fraught with challenges and irregularities, and we've scored him a 4.
Yes, he's got a 4.
Why have you scored him a 4, given that a lot of the issues that are existing now happened before his time, before his watch? Has he had enough time to demonstrate that he has the potential to do bigger things?
Well, when you go into an office, you need to make your presence felt. You need to change things around. So in terms of time, I think it's had enough time. Certain things require just changing here and there, making decisions quickly. Things like the scandal, we have even called it the scandal in our write-up. Government trains the teachers every year. As I'm speaking to you now, teacher training colleges are full. Every year, people go there. Graduates from 4 graduates apply and they go there. When government has spent so much of taxpayers' money to train those people, for them to move into schools, it's like an uphill task. You've trained them, and then the kids in classrooms are waiting for them. if you go to our schools, you find the teachers are not enough. Schools are being opened every day. For those people just to go into the classroom is up to task. So that sort of thing is what has he, and Msaka has presided over that. Then you're talking of teachers, strikes. Living grants haven't been paid. We even saw.
Wait a minute, George. That was something that was symptomatic of a problem from the past. This
Yes.
is not new.
Yes.
So why are we criticizing
yes,
him?
he's there now. He's the one that he can sort it out. I mean, the question of teachers, you finish training, taking them to classrooms. How long does it
Are
take?
these the kind of issues that you think can be resolved overnight?
But I mean, teachers have been trained. You know them. They've been trained. What is the problem in taking them into the classroom?
Let me catch you there. Talking about
Yes.
that, he made a statement. He said some 9,600 primary school teachers were recruited in 2017, and for the first time in many years, they were paid their first salary in their first month.
Yes.
That's an improvement. And he's talked about opening an open university under the DPP administration.
Where is the open university?
He's-
You can't be
it's in the
rewarding.
pipeline.
You can't be rewarding people based on promises. I think in this country we have learned a lesson that politicians promise us a lot that they deliver less. So as Malawians, we have stopped, getting overexcited with promises.
But we've rewarded them.
or
But we've scored the president a 5
foundation
for
stones.
constantly laying stones.
No, actually, that's the biggest criticism of the president.
Does his profession of being a lawyer make matters complicated?
It shouldn't be complicated. He's a very, very experienced person in public. Remember, he was once secretary to the president cabinet. He knows the system. Saka is one kind of person that can work anywhere in any ministry, simply because he was on top of all these ministers as the boss at the OPC. So for him, I think there's an exception. I know some people, I mean, we'll talk about the Minister of Health, who probably have been misplaced, but not people like Nsaka with their experience in public life.
All right. So just to conclude, you have said here that towards the end of February, Msaka did present a report to the just ended midterm budget review session where he gave the state of education in the country. Now, one of the opposition MPs said that it was, he commended Msaka for presenting the facts as they are.
Yes.
So perhaps should we be giving him credit for at least
That's why we're
being
giving.
honest?
That's why we're giving him a 4.
A 4?
I mean, you go on the street to Wezi and Elvis and ask anybody to assess the Minister of Education. It's one of the ministers where incompetence reigns high.
But it's the biggest ministry as well in terms of.
Then why don't we cut it? If it's the biggest, why don't we cut it to lower or higher education? Why don't we cut it? If the primary school can have its own minister, higher education can have its own minister. I mean, if we think it's too big.
So
to be run.
judging by what this opposition member of parliament said, it would suggest, it would seem, it would appear that Msaka is on the right path. As much as you're giving him a 4, it seems his own fellow parliamentarians seem to have faith in him.
He's on the right path, certainly. He
Yeah.
said the right things in parliament. But to translate those things into action and change the scope of our education in this country, I think we are too far
All right.
from
so
achieving
at
it.
least we know that he was honest and he wasn't sugarcoating anything.
No, he wasn't sugarcoating anything.
Okay, let's move on. In the interest of time, the next minister who we're going to be criticizing, or critiquing, shall I say, is a minister.
All right.
Minister of Health, Atubele Muluzi.
Let's-
Fish climbing a tree.
Yeah,
That's what we're
let's-
calling it.
Let's talk about
Yes.
that matter now.
Yes.
Was he misplaced?
Completely misplaced. That's why we're saying if you force a fish to climb a tree, then nothing can happen because the fish is supposed to be in water.
What have you made of the way he's been handling some of the health matters that broke out recently? We can talk about the cholera. We can talk about the Listoris from South Africa, a fruitsome product of meats.
The positive thing is that he is quick to come to the public and explain things. But when it comes to dealing with the actual problem on the ground, because talking about cholera in a press conference and putting in place things on the ground to make sure that the disease is contained are two different things. You can lie in a press conference that we have contained it, nobody is dying, blah, 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 while on the ground people are still dying. And I think we have lost people again this year because of cholera. It's a yearly occurrence. It's an annual thing. Why should it be an annual thing? Cholera is something that we know there will be rain. It's something that we can control. It's something that we can stop by good preventive measures, civic educating people, talking about it. At some point, the Minister of Health had even a band. I don't know whether that band is still playing. It was playing in the rural areas while they are giving out messages of cholera. They had vans that would go in our rural areas and talk about diseases and how we should avoid them and other campaigns. Where are those things?
But others would rate him well on how he handled the meat matter, or the Listoris matter.
Yes. It was a press conference. It was a press conference. He came to a press conference.
They put in place a ban?
Yes, they put it in place a ban. Yes, but we didn't have it on the ground. My problem is when we have the actual thing on the ground, it drags on and on and on and on. All we hear or read are statements from the Minister of Health talking about it, but on the ground they don't do much. I would rather those resources should go on the ground. To address the things that we were about.
All right. I mean, just to add to what Elvis was saying, George, would it be fair to say that Atupela Muluzi is out of his depth in the Ministry of Health? It does appear that way, doesn't it? As much as you're saying, Elvis has highlighted, yes, he did well in terms of how he dealt with the listeriosis scare. But having said that, there are so many indications that he's perhaps out of his depth.
I don't know what was the justification for the president to appoint him as Minister of Health. He was in lands, I think, so he transferred him to Minister of Health. I don't know what.
But even there, let's be honest, he didn't really perform in a stellar way there either.
Exactly. He is obviously getting valuable experience. For me, he's one for the future. He's still in politics. But as of now, I think the depth lacks. Okay. I mean, the way he was explaining in Parliament the issue of people, women dying in Mangochi because of power. Somebody forgot to switch on the generator after power had gone off. Power had gone off. To me, it didn't make any sense.
But there have been other issues as well. I mean, let's look at what happened in Parliament very recently, where they had a little debate about how to deal with doctors who've been trained and nurses who've been trained.
Exactly.
And I think it was Juliana Lunguzi who said, look,
yes,
why don't we just send them abroad? He came in and said, no, that would be a waste of our training and our resources. Was that wise?
It wasn't wise, because the problem that Lunguzi was talking about is the fact that you are training these people, but you can't employ them. It's the same problem with Minister of Education that we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah.
That you've trained teachers, you've spent millions upon millions training people. We need doctors, we need nurses in our hospitals. When we go to public hospitals, you clearly see the need. Now, for a government to train people and then fail to employ them, what's the matter?
Which is why I'm saying it seems to me that he perhaps in some ways doesn't know what to do about
exactly. He doesn't know how to maneuver things in the system and get his way, get things done.
So this 3 would probably be what? Because for the HIV movement that we've made, even then, that was prior to him. That was not Atupela's time.
Not at all. The fact that we've made progress in HIV movement, goes down to him. It's a ministry.
So perhaps you could for the advantage for the benefit of our viewers, perhaps you could just highlight some of the problems that you think have made Atupela fail.
Well, this is what I'm telling you. One, I don't think he has been on top of things to address things. Drug shortages, maintenance of things. You remember the report that we did at Queen's. You can't believe that in 21st century Malawi you can subject citizens to such type of facilities. So even the issue of how energy or lack of electricity has affected the hospitals, you can clearly see it's not on top of it. Right. People are dying.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on. Again, if you're just tuning in, you're watching this special edition of Hot Current right here on Times TV, where we are looking at the Cabinet Assessment, the Sunday Times Cabinet Assessment here at the Times Group and the 2018 version. So I'm joined in the studios by Times Group Editor-in-Chief George Kasakula and, of course, my colleague Elvis HowaHowa. We are on our next ministry, and that is... I'm glad I got this one, Elvis. You got the short straw.
Okay.
I get Ministry of Natural Resources, Energy and Mining. And that is, of course, under Agri-Massy. And we've sort of given it a subheadline, Darkness Makes Malawi Ugly. Where to start with this one, George? I mean, like we've rightly highlighted so many times, 2017, probably the worst year in terms of energy for Malawi.
What can we say?
What can we say?
If I had my way as George Kasakula, I would have even given him a 0.
Well, I'm actually surprised that you've scored Agri-Massy a 3, similar
because there's the issue of natural resources, then the issue of mining.
Yeah.
Perhaps things are happening there.
All right.
But the energy is where this ministry has failed us.
All right, so let's look at this in detail. Agri-Massey only, of course, came into this particular ministry in July 2017 after the cabinet reshuffle. That being said, we started to experience energy challenges or power outages towards the end of 2017. Is it fair to suggest that this was his fault? Because you've given him a 3, which would imply that somehow he was partly to blame. These kind of energy crises that we're talking about are a cumulative problem. They don't just happen. So we would have had problems probably from a year beforehand. Why are we criticizing Agri-Massey?
Why has it not made a difference?
Nsaka
Why has
was
it not
the
made,
one at the helm of this.
why has it not made a difference? You as already point out, the president made a cabinet reshuffle in July 2017. Now we are 2018. This is March, right? How many months? This is over 9 months now. He's in the ministry. How long do you need to make an impact? How long do you need to change things, to shake things up?
The energy crisis started around August, September 2017.
Has it
Giving
been,
him 2 months.
has it been part of a group that has made the right course? The generators, for example, have they made any difference in this country? We have always blamed the what? He's the one who was presiding over the coming in of generators. Remember?
Yes.
Remember? He was the one who went
But those
to
are
Zuzu.
decisions that would have been made even prior to his time.
Yes,
Presumably.
but in terms of implementation, what have the generators done? What is it that he has changed? Even if decisions were made before he went there, what has he changed? It's his core. What has he changed? Nothing.
Let me ask you this then. What would you have had him do differently? Given the circumstances and the constraints he's working under, what would he have done differently?
Look, whatever he has done. I'm not Minister of Energy. I don't work
Yeah.
for Minister of Energy, so I don't know. But whatever is done in terms of what the result on the ground is 0.
Okay.
Because we are still getting the blackouts.
Put it this way.
It means
What-
it's not effective.
Yeah, put it this way. What would you have expected him to do to get, let's say, a 5 or a 6?
Then he should
you
have
give him a 6 or
he should have done more. He should have shaken the system. ESCOM, are we doing the right things in terms of procurement of things? Ejenko, are we doing the right things?
You talked about IPSs.
Yes, IPSs.
Can you elaborate that? Why do you feel that we've delayed the implementation of these new independent
Look, we started talking. We started talking about IPPs in this country for I don't know as long as maybe over 10 years now. What has happened? Where do we have independent energy producers producing energy, putting on the grid, and then we have it? If at all IPPs would have made a difference, then where is the difference? What has he done to push things? Probably that's where I should have pushed more to see that Ejenko is not giving. Probably should have pushed more for more independent power producers.
Let's look at some of the systems or ideas that have been implemented to improve the power crisis. First of all, there was the splitting of ESCOM.
Yes.
Okay. Janko as well, 2 of them.
Yes.
And then there is the Millennium Challenge Account Project.
Do you really think before even proceeding?
Let's look at these matters.
Yes.
Don't you think that is a step forward?
It's not a step forward. To me, it's a step backward. What has the country benefited because the ESCOM has been split into 2? Apart from people getting employed and having 2 boards, having 2 CEOs or whatever. What has it done? It has done nothing. It doesn't.
The Millennium Challenge Account. What do you make of it?
We have essentially, look, for me, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Whatever they are doing, as long as we citizens don't experience it in our homes, our companies don't experience it, our companies don't have
inherited a broken system, a broken energy sector.
then what has it done? 9 months
Yeah.
is enough to
Is it
repair,
really,
to repair
George?
certain things.
Is that
To repair
fair?
certain things.
Really?
9 months. What do you need? When you come to an office, or when you come to an office, you just need 2 months to make a difference, to show that you are in for serious business. So this 3 is his. This 30%.
Just out
This
of
30% is his.
Out of interest, George, would you have expected, just for argument's sake, Agri-Massey to perhaps not have purchased these diesel generators?
What have they done? People they were warned that these things, no country has ever lived on generators. It
Yes.
can't work. What you should be doing is working more on the same power, power that we get from
Yes.
Ejenko.
You've talked about irrigation, for example, a number of other issues, and other solar energy rather, not irrigation.
Solar energy,
Are
yes.
those the kind of alternatives that we can implement in a hurry?
Yes. There you go.
Really?
Energy.
hurry?
Energy. You have so many sources of energy. It's not just the water. You're talking of of solar. That's
But you need the infrastructure in place.
You need the infrastructure.
So what I'm saying is, would you have rather, for example, they said, right, let's invest in solar energy infrastructure instead of diesel generators?
The IPPs that they're talking about, to me, I thought that's the direction to go. Solar energy. That's the direction to go. Because if you look at the trend in the world now, they are working more on this, what they are calling cleaner energy sources than the diesel or the generators that they we want to do.
There are also other sectors of this ministry. Mining, for instance.
Yes.
Let's look at mining. Kere in a mine, that one came in for some heavy criticism. But there was also an assessment of how much Malawi has in terms of minerals. What are you making of this particular section of this ministry?
You don't really feel that something is happening in mining that can improve this economy. People are complaining about outdated laws, something that we have referred to here. Exploration is being done. There was a debate about whether we should, go to Lake Malawi and explore for oil. You just feel that things have stopped moving. Yet, it's an area that can help improve the economy. If we have minerals, why is it that it's only Malawi that doesn't have minerals? Zambia, they have minerals. Zimbabwe, they have minerals. Mozambique, they have minerals. Tanzania, they have minerals. Do you think God would have just said only Malawi?
But
should
Malawi
not
does have minerals.
So
I think the ministry has actually accepted that.
So why are we not making progress? Why is it that people are not treating it as a matter of agency?
You touched on a very important point.
Yes.
Before we move to another ministry. You talked about the way Malawi makes its agreements with investors.
Yes.
When it comes to the mining of these minerals.
Yes.
Is that where the problem really lies?
It
Because we can go back to the
it leaves a lot to be desired. They want to make it a secret. The Guerrilla mining agreement that you are talking about, there was even a clause there which said this should not be made public. Now, these are things that belong to the public, and the politicians want to keep them a secret. They get away with murder.
All right.
And we allow them to do it.
George, we're going to have to take a break.
Yes.
We'll be right back. If you're just tuning in, you're watching a special edition of Hot Current here on Times TV, where we are looking at the 2018 Sunday Times Cabinet Assessment. But we'll be right back with more ministries to look at after this break.
Now you can access the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times newspapers anytime, anywhere, by the click of a mouse or a swipe on your smartphone. With eTimes, right on your mobile gadget. Flip through the pages with a swipe or a click. Navigate through all pages and see clear pictures and designs. Access a database of previous papers of the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times. Easy. Subscribe now to eTimes. Go to www.times.mw/e-edition. Sign up and log in. Enter your password and enjoy the newspaper. It's about time. Now you can access the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times newspapers anytime, anywhere, by the click of a mouse or a swipe on your smartphone. With eTimes, right on your mobile gadget. Flip through the pages with a swipe or a click. Navigate through all pages and see clear pictures and designs. Access a database of previous papers of the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times. Easy. Subscribe now to eTimes. Go to www.times.mw/e-edition. Sign up and log in. Enter your password and enjoy the newspaper. It's about time.
All right, welcome back to this special edition of Hot Current here on Times TV, where we are looking at the 2018 Cabinet Assessment produced by the Sunday Times paper here at the Times Group. Today, of course, I'm joined by Hot Current regular, Times Group Editor-in-Chief George Kasakula, and indeed my colleague Elvis HowaHowa. In the first third of the program, we looked at the Vice President's performance, the President's performance, the Ministry of Education, and a number of other ministries. Now, we're going into the Ministry of Labour, Youth, Sport and Manpower Development, of course, led by the recently appointed Francis Kasambala. Go ahead, Elvis.
Okay, Mr. Kasakula, let's begin with sport.
Yes. First of all, the score is
3
Yes,
out of 10.
he gets a 3.
30%.
30%.
30%,
okay.
yes.
All right.
Let's begin with sport. Sports is a mess.
Sports is a mess. Nothing is happening there. We are a nation of underachievers as far as
Even
sports
the
is concerned.
Queens are doing badly now.
Yeah, they're
eh?
doing bad. Yes, we are a nation of underachievers. Simply put, there's nothing happening in sports.
You've touched on matters of infrastructure development.
Yes.
PAT ground, Kamuzu Stadium. But one would say they've constructed the Bingu National Stadium
But what is it doing to us?
to host.
What is it doing to us? What is it that it is giving us? Okay, the Chinese have built that. We paid $70 million. We'll go to pay $70 million for it. What has it done to us? We can't even take care of it. Is that the way to go? We are building those things, yet we can't take care of the ones that we already have. BAT, Kamuzu Institute for sports, Kamuzu Stadium. Where are they? They are in a state of disrepair.
Is this a matter of another wrong appointment in this particular section of sport? Francis Kasambala.
When you look at the minister, he looks sporty and he's not very he's young. I
Yes,
think
he does
he's
look
one
rather
of the
youthful,
young
doesn't he?
ministers.
But does
one of the young
qualify?
ministers. One of the young ministers.
But the question is, does that qualify?
You do think he would easily relate to these things and move things around, relate to the sports bodies, sportsmen and women, and move
Yes,
things.
but his physical appearance and indeed his acumen when it comes to the issues of sport are two
Yes.
very different things, aren't
Two
they?
different
Right,
things. That's
Elvis?
right.
Yeah.
Two different
Yeah.
things. That's the Senate. Two different things. So probably looks can deceive. The point of the matter is nothing is really happening in the ministry.
In sports, Labour, Wezi, that's another problem. There,
Yes,
Labour.
labour indeed is a huge problem. I think we have skills development, which seems to be a bit of an issue. We seem to also to be having seeing a decline in the need for technical colleges.
Their signature project. If you ask them, the thing that they're going to wake up even in the middle of a
They
dream,
who?
Meaning the ministry.
Okay.
Plus the minister, obviously.
Yeah.
The thing that is going to wake up from even is in the middle of the dream and talk about is that as a success will be obviously the vocational
Yes.
colleges that government says it is the building. As a nation, the idea is good. You need those skills. You need those skills in young people. I think most of the young people, when they finish school from 4, they have nothing to do.
Yeah.
The economy cannot absorb them into the job market. So you give them the skills. The question is, has it been successful? After you train them, have you given them the equipment, for example, whether it's a loan, whether it's what? Can we go to the ground and find someone who's going to say, yes, I'm a graduate of this program, and this is what I'm doing. I'm successful. I'm able to feed my family.
Not just that.
When you speak to the DPP, the idea is that if you give someone a skill, they will be able then to take their own initiative.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Their
behind
own
it,
what?
Not their own initiative.
Meaning what?
To establish themselves.
Meaning what? Meaning
as
that
a-
they don't
as a
need
carpenter.
they don't help.
It's not necessarily about.
For them to open a carpentry shop, then somebody should help them. If the government cannot do it on its own, then probably you would link them up with the lending institutions that can give them money. So government can play a role in that, can facilitate, can help in maybe identification and what. Are they doing that successfully? I really doubt, because we haven't seen any such success stories.
All right, George. I think it strikes me that the issue we tend to have when we think about labor and skills as well is marrying the two, the skill sets to the kind of demand that our sectors need.
Exactly.
Now, as much as we are engaging in all these technical colleges, I'm wondering whether we are tailoring these colleges to meet the kind of demand that the industries need. I think that's where the problem is.
Yeah.
We might have a vast number
Yes.
of these young men and women who are skilled, but do we have a need for those particular skills?
Obviously, we need carpenters to make
Yes.
us beds and what have you. We need welders.
But
We
let's
need-
assume they want to go into the private sector. Are those the kind of skills the private sector is looking for?
To me, I thought the idea is not necessarily that these people are going to be employed, but they're going to employ themselves.
But the point is, assuming they cannot, like Elvis said, establish their own in businesses, and they want to get employed,
Oh,
should
yes.
that not be a fallback?
There'll always be jobs for carpenters, because every day people need things. Things get broken in homes that need repair.
But yet
Welders.
unemployment is still very high, George. We still have so many unemployed young men and women.
That's why you need to combine. You need to combine the fact that these people should be entrepreneurs, where they're going to be on their 2 feet and get business and get market at the same time, where they are needed. Sure, they can
So
be
what are you
employed.
saying? Should they be offered what? Once they finish these courses, are you suggesting that they're offered some kind of what? Soft loans to start off for capital?
That's the
Things
point.
like that.
That's the point. Because the moment you just train them and say, we have trained them, and you mention the figures, statistics, we have trained them so much, when they are not utilizing those skills, what's the point?
Does this sector have the capacity to do that?
Yes,
Do we
well,
have the kind of resources to be able to
That's
provide that kind of money?
then that's why we have a whole ministry. That's why we are giving this ministry 30%, because they have been able to do that. Their job is the manpower development, the labor, the youth. The youth are just rottering in the streets. They are doing nothing. Go to Ntrand in the morning, you find them. They have already started taking Midori and whatever it is. Instead of going to technical colleges, they're helping them to proceed.
Let's move on and now,
Okay.
Wezi, talk about the Minister of Information and Communication Technology, headed
Yes.
by Honorable Nicholas Dawsey.
Yes,
Half a loaf.
I've indeed half a loaf. We're calling it. I'm getting all the great ones, Elvis. I think I'm getting another good one. Our dear friend, Honorable Nicholas Dawsey, has been scored a 5 out of 10. Again, I must admit, a little bit surprised there. We've given him a 5. You say somehow the Minister of Information is in familiar territory. Among other things, his new ministry is mandated to offer policy direction on issues related to the media, etc., etc. You say, or rather, we are saying that he seems to have hit the ground running. You've sort of commended him for being able to speak to the media, just like that, at the touch of a button, etc., etc. But my question to you is, as much as he's always willing to talk to the media, is he credible? It's all well and good being able to talk the talk, but is he actually credible?
Well,
I'm wondering how he's
I'm
got
not
a
sure.
5.
I'm not sure. I understand your question. What do you mean?
The point I'm trying to make is,
as an individual,
as much as no, as a minister of information, the
Yes.
point I'm trying to make is, we all know that Nicholas Dawsey loves to talk, and
Yes.
and indeed we commend him for being willing to talk to us. But
In terms of,
is he a credible minister of
in terms
information?
of the PR and
is there
his
substance to his talk?
I'm coming there. In terms of the PR and his presentation to the public and to the media, probably you could say he's credible. Is there substance in what he says? We have known him as somebody who has something with words, but still
Yes.
we still glean information out of him. If we still force him to respond to things, and the public is able to see whether he's lying, whether he's running away, he's simply running away using words. The public is able to see him.
Okay, you've commended him on a couple of other issues. You talked about, for example, the SIM card registration.
Yes.
How he initially backpedaled after members of the public and various other quarters were alarmed by this move by Manka to say, right, we're going to register mobile SIM cards. Then of course they went back and said, no, it's going to happen. Why is this something to really give him a thumbs up for?
Because it clearly is the ministry is connected to Malawians. They seem to have feelers. The thing there, two things that Malawians were complaining about. One, the fact that they were saying there isn't enough on the ground to let somebody, for example, in Jinteche or whatever Chitipa, to go and register in the rural area. Where are they going to register? TNM, Airtel, and other players are in town. So you didn't do a good job. Then you didn't even tell us, you didn't even civic educate us the importance of this. Then you also have how you're going to deal with the data that we're going to give you. The fact that now George Kasakula is linked to his number, you know the number. Are you not going to start if dropping on George to see who is George and use that information for sinister intentions? So that's why they backpedaled. Now the thing is back. To me, I thought the engagement with the public, listening to the public and trying to work on what the public is complaining about, I thought it's a positive thing.
Okay, that's fine. But I mean, we all know that he's a people's person. He's a bit of a,
He's
bit of a statesman. In that
Exactly,
respect.
exactly.
But having said that, he obviously is also the main man when it comes to overseeing MACRA, because
Yes.
that falls under his ministry.
Actually, that's where the
However-
weaknesses are now.
Yeah, I was going to say
That's
that.
where the weaknesses are.
because
Not
it
just
seems-
MAGRA, even MPC.
Yes,
MPC
and
is allowed to
that's-
churn out the propaganda,
All right,
and he
George,
hasn't been in control.
Let me do the talking, then you
Okay,
can analyze.
all right, okay.
That's what I was going to say. MBC, for example, he seems to still be struggling and at pains to actually tackle these issues you're talking about in terms of non-partisanship.
Correct.
And being completely objective
Correct.
and non-partisan.
Correct.
That seems to be eluding him.
Yes, and I think
That's
that's
a
why
big
that's
problem.
that's why he's got a half a off. That's where the main problem is. The problem with the fact that he can't, because he's a politician, and I know the reason. I know the reason why he can't do it. It's because he wants. They want the advantage of DBB as a party over other parties, which is wrong, because the MPC is run on taxpayers' money. And if it's running on taxpayers' money, then it must do the right thing for all people, not just you. One side. It's not a mouthpiece. It's not a mouthpiece of the ruling party.
Okay,
Let's,
obviously,
let's talk about the access to information via mediums such as the internet, etc. Has Malawi been doing well?
No, Malawi hasn't been doing it. To begin with, the cost of internet in Malawi is very high. In fact, some people say it's the highest in the world. And then you are talking of access to information. You remember we had the ATI? That ATI is nowhere to be seen. And the ministry is just, struggling in the dark, is doing nothing about it. So those are the weaknesses of the minister and his ministry.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, we've also talked about other things. I mean, there's been other innovations. Apart from this, you say mobile service providers have been embracing technology such as 4G, 4.5G. But then, that, like you rightly said before this, I don't know whether it makes a difference given how astronomical the cost of
It
internet
doesn't
is.
make it.
It doesn't really matter.
I
does
think
it?
the ministry, MAGRA, plus the operators,
Yes.
they have got a story to tell Malawians. Why is it that it's only in Malawi that the phone charges, internet charges, and what have you are so expensive? People say we are the most expensive. There was even a story on BBC that we were the most expensive in the world. Why? What is the problem? Yes.
And what is the problem in your view? Why are
they just fumble. Or they just fumble. You can't. They will just try to defend it.
What would it take to subsidize the cost of internet?
Well, how have others done it? How have others done it? We don't have to go further. How is it
Kenya,
that,
for example.
Yes. What is the lesson that we can learn from others?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And then in terms of
At the end of the
placements-
day, our conclusion is that we just have greedy people in the sector.
Okay,
People that
George.
want to make astronomical profits at the expense of us,
to wrap this
poor
one up,
citizens.
To wrap this one up, is Nicholas Dausi well placed as a Minister of Information, or is he just there because he has the gift of the gab? Is that what makes him a good Minister of Information?
Well placed, but he can do
Really?
more. Well placed. He's
Well-placed why?
an affable guy. You need someone who can connect with the public, and I think Daus successfully does that.
Okay.
Where we differ is these weaknesses that we have pointed out. But in terms of ability and whether he fits, I think he does fit. It's just the execution of his duties where we have problems.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's move on. Our next ministry is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation by Dr. Emmanuel Fabiano, who was the former Minister of Education. And we've scored him a 20%, or shall we say 2 out of 10. An
yes.
abysmal 2 out of 10. Elvis, terrible, isn't it?
Okay, yeah, fine. That's a score. But let's
2.
talk about the first thing that this minister is supposed to do: enhance trade interests
Yes.
on behalf of Malawi.
Yes.
There's been talk about Malawi having a very weak export base. Where's the missing link?
To me, if there's a ministry where I'm even tongue-tied to talk about,
And that's saying a lot.
it's
You're never
it's
tongue-tied.
this ministry. I don't see it. I don't see the relevance of that ministry in my life. But I know that in other countries, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation is very key, because it is the link with the international world. How is Malawi projected in the international world? Are we doing anything that the world would say, wow, this is Malawi? I'll give you an example. Since the president came to power, have we had any visit by a head of state? a head of state.
But wait a minute, George, come on. Is that really the yardstick we should use to measure the success of
because
trade?
the whole reason why
Heads of state visiting.
the whole reason why we have this ministry is because it's our link with the international world. How are we relating? How are we projecting ourselves? How are we benefiting
George,
from the
imagine if we were visited, just for argument's sake, by the president of the leader of North Korea. Does that mean that we're doing well?
No, don't go to you know what I'm
just
talking
saying,
about.
just as an example.
No, this is a bad example. I think it will carry out the point I'm making if you give me those examples.
Perhaps the question is, does Malawi need to train people in foreign affairs matters to head such ministries? Do they need to come from the universities?
It does. The problem with this ministry is that if you go to our embassies, for example, you find that it's full of relatives of ministers and the principal secretaries and the people that are connected, instead of it being full with Malawians that are capable of doing their job. We have written stories, so many stories of who is where, who is in London, who is in Washington, who is in Tokyo. You check, you find that it's full of such people. Now, your question is very vital. Should we really... First of all, it must be by merit. Merit. Each Malawian that want to work into foreign affairs should have a chance, at least of an interview. We don't have that. So that's one reason why this ministry is getting 20%. It's because of those things. And you people have just closed me. I was talking about
Go ahead.
State visits.
Yes.
State visits are important because you want to see how we are rating. You want to see the Secretary of State of the US coming to Malawi. You will only come to Kenya and Mozambique and Tanzania. Why? Why is that so? Why is the president not hosting other heads of state? Right here, we see him signing things. They are talking. They are saying, "Oh, Malawians from there onwards, you go to this country visa free. I've agreed with my counterpart." Those are the things that this ministry is supposed to be facilitating. Apparently, it is not. Yes.
So wait a minute. So you would blame the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for the lack of for that problem?
It's their specialty. It's their specialty. They are the ones that are supposed to be advising.
So are they not enticing these other leaders in your view?
Yes, yes. Are they helping the president? Are they connecting the president to other the ambassadors that were paying top dollar salaries?
Could it not be that perhaps Malawi is not inviting enough, George? That perhaps it doesn't look like there's an incentive
but
in terms of investment.
But in the past, Malawi has never hosted a queen. In the past, Malawi has never hosted Hillary Clinton.
Because at the time it was marketable.
Yes.
And it was inviting.
So what has happened? Then they're the ones who are supposed to reverse it. Why is it that we were able to host the Queen? We were able to host the Duke of Edinburgh. We were able to host Hillary Clinton. Yeah. We were able to host almost each of the neighboring presidents. What has happened?
Correct me if I'm wrong. At the time, Malawi did show a lot of potential in terms of investment.
Well,
that has drastically changed.
Yes.
And also, don't forget, there's also a high level of corruption. Perhaps didn't exist then.
Then somebody must fix it. It's this minister that must fix it. So the fact that they're failing to fix it, that's why they're getting 20%.
So in your opinion,
yes,
Mr. Emmanuel Fabiano is not suitable.
Dr. Emmanuel Fabiano.
Yeah, Dr. Emmanuel Fabiano.
That's why he has got a 20%. It's not suitable.
All right.
It's not suitable. I don't know whether the problems, him obviously as the head of political head of the ministry, but you're also talking about the government itself, the president and the rest of it. What's happening? We're now going to get a study visit.
All right. We're moving on to the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Tourism, which, in my view, is very linked to the ministry we've just finished discussing.
That's right.
And that is Foreign Affairs.
That's right.
And if anything, I think perhaps the Ministry of Industry and Trade is probably more to blame for this lack of leaders visiting us, etc., etc. George, probably maybe.
No.
When we think of trade,
trade is something different. It's a minister that is just full of lies. They're just lying every day. We have organized the investment forums. So many investors have said they are going to come. You check them here afterwards. Whether those investors have come, where have they come? You find that there's none.
All right, but
they go to London, to Wadi, attending expositions there. Nothing comes out.
That being said, George, you would also agree perhaps that this is a very critical industry, though.
Very, very critical.
We need to trade as a country in order
very critical.
Henry Musa is the Minister of Trade, Tourism and Industry, and we scored him a 4 out of 10 or 40%.
Yes.
We've said that there's been vibrancy over the past 2 years in 2017, but it's been quiet, you say. And of course, the idea of this ministry is to promote industry, trade, and private sector development for sustainable economic growth.
Correct.
However, that being said, it cannot take away the fact that we need to have the sort of infrastructure, the sort of mechanisms in place to make it appealing for trade and investment in the first place. Now, You've given Henry Musa a 4 out of 10. He only just came into this ministry again. I think it was also July.
July, yes.
July 2017.
Yes, he was initially Labour and the vocational development.
That's
and whatever,
right.
Yes.
How much could he possibly have done to fix things
A lot.
between then and now?
9 months are just a lot for someone to make a difference in whatever job they have been placed in. So this idea that that people need the longest time possible to make a difference, I don't agree with it. A person that is capable, that is competent, doesn't need more than 2 months to make a difference, to change things around the place, to make his impact or her impact felt at the place. As I said, this ministry just lies to Malawians. When something little happens, we have improved on what the world doing business.
I was going to ask you about
then that is highlighted as if it's the most successful thing. When the actual thing that we should be celebrating is whether this has resulted in having industries on the ground where our young men and women can go and get employed.
Is Honorable Henry Musa too much of a politician?
Yes. They're not all. Are they not all of them too much of politicians? Are they not all protecting politics at the expense of our well-being in whatever they are doing?
Yeah, but in some of these ministries, we need more technocrats than politicians.
Exactly, that's
and
the
I think
point.
this is one of them, isn't it?
That's the point.
Yeah.
That's the point.
So he's,
I think
again,
he's,
another one who's perhaps not well placed.
He's busy with being a politician, just like the rest of them.
Okay.
Campaign and whatever. I don't think they have time for these things.
Yeah, you've talked about how we've been engaging in a number of expos, etc., and how they seldom yield anything. And yet, year after year, we hear about Malawi taking part in these expos. What is the point? Why are we still even?
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you the point. The point is that they just want to go to London and fly and claim allowances. But in terms of when they come back to say, can you give us a report on what you have done? What is it that you of what benefit to the country, the expo that you went to? They will say nothing. Even when you check them after they organize their so-called investor conferences in Ilongwe, with pomp and everybody there, nice speeches, they parade the Chinese, whatnot.
Okay.
At the end of the day, there's nothing. The
All right.
investment they're talking about is somebody rearing chickens.
All right.
Can you come all the way from
This-
Beijing just to rear chickens here?
You'll probably also agree, though, that this is one of those ministries that has to work in harmony with other ministries in order for
Exactly,
it to tick.
exactly.
In this case, you need your transport
Yes.
to be up to scratch.
Everything,
You
yes.
need your health
Yes.
to be up to
The
scratch. If you're going
economy.
to the economy,
The economy, cost of finance.
So perhaps this particular ministry cannot stand in isolation.
Yes.
In
Yes.
other words, we cannot really judge it in isolation, can we?
We can.
It's very much dependent on the success of other ministries.
We can.
Elvis, would you
we
agree?
can. We can. It is a cog on
Elvis
its own.
agrees.
It's a well. What so?
Elvis, why would you agree?
Proceed.
He doesn't want to disagree with you.
Agree.
No, but the point I'm trying to make is I doubt that the Ministry of Trade can tick without the other ministries also ticking, George.
Ministries are part of government.
Yes.
It's the whole government. When you have a 20
Yeah.
20-member cabinet, that's government. Each ministry has a role to play. Certainly, it has to be part of a cog.
That's right.
But that does not stop us from holding a particular minister accountable, because they have specific things. Theirs is trade. How much trade have they brought? How many investors have they brought to the country when they attend these
But they
expos?
cannot bring investors who can clearly see we have an energy
They-
crisis,
they-
which is the problem of the Ministry of Energy.
So when they have a cabinet
When we
meeting,
have power blackouts, who's gonna want to invest in the country?
So when they have a cabinet meeting, because they have cabinet meetings with the president, all of them are there. They should be able to say, look, because we are delaying to sort out the energy. Can we sort out the energy, Mr. Minister of Energy? Because we are delaying to sort out the energy, it is doing this. What help do you need from us so that you sort out the energy? Then they discuss as a group.
Can I ask you something, George? Is the issue perhaps funding? Are all these ministries buckling at the knees because they simply don't have enough money?
The issue is not funding ways. Let's not give these people an excuse.
Really?
The issue is not funding. These are ministers headed by these ministers are Pika. Each one of them. I mean, ministers like this, you discover that apart from our own funding from Treasury, they get a lot of projects. Countries are there to help them. Japan, what? They want to China, they want to help them.
All right.
It's their ability.
Okay, we're going to need to take a short break, George. But when we come back, we will continue
So we
this
drink
discussion.
water.
Yes, so we can have some water.
We can have some
have a
water.
bit of a breather. If you're just tuning in, you're watching a special edition of Hot Current here on Times TV, where we are looking at the 2018 Sunday Times Cabinet Assessment, as we look at all the various ministries, cabinet, and indeed the president himself, and we rate them and rank them according to their performance. But we will be right back after this short break.
You can access the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times newspapers anytime, anywhere, by the click of a mouse or a swipe on your smartphone. With eTimes, right on your mobile gadget. Flip through the pages with a swipe or a click. Navigate through all pages and see clear pictures and designs. Access a database of previous papers of the Daily Times, Malawi News, and the Sunday Times. Easy. Subscribe now to eTimes. Go to www.times.mw/e-edition. Sign up and log in. Enter your password and enjoy the newspaper. It's about time.
Hello there, and welcome back to this special edition of Hot Current on Times TV, where we are looking at the 2018 Cabinet Assessment, as of course produced by the Sunday Times paper, which we produce here at the Times Group. Now, today I'm joined by a regular Hot Current guest, Times Group Editor-in-Chief, George Kasakula, and of course my colleague on the left, Elvis, HowaHowa. We've gone through a number of ministries in the last hour. We still have quite a few to go, starting out with the Ministry of Public Works and Infrastructure Development, which is of course run and headed by Jappy Muhango. He's been in the media quite a lot over the last couple of weeks. He also had a bit of a war of words. I think it was with Sadiq Mia, the member of opposition. And Elvis is going to tell us how we are rating him.
Yeah, he's rated 5 out of 10.
50%.
Yeah, 50%. The minister's created 2,500 jobs. That's where you're starting from in your analysis of this ministry in 2017 through the implementation of various projects, roads, bridges, and a rail line rehabilitation. That's good. A ministry needs to create jobs.
Yes, it does a lot of works. So that tends to create jobs in construction. The roads construction is under him. So several projects that they're doing. Some are progressing well, others are not progressing well. But yes, that has happened.
The complaint now has been shoddy work, substandard work of roads, bridges. You name it.
Exactly.
Why is this still a problem up to now? Analyze it.
To me, there's chaos. There's chaos in that sector. I don't know whether, as taxpayers, we are really getting the little value of what happens there. I think the other day, even the president was complaining about contractors that are overpricing, contractors that are doing substandard work. He was even warning that he's going to ban them. To me, that was a key statement. It was a key statement about the performance of the ministry. Corruption is the issue, where a bid of a job is supposed to put in more money on the bid because he knows that somehow he has got to pay a line of people that facilitated it, like a kickback. That tends to affect the quality of work because sometimes he overpays them and then he doesn't have money to perform the contract. Sometimes he overcharges because he knows he's got more costs. In the end, as taxpayers don't get value for it.
What about oversight institutions? What are they doing, like parliamentary account committees, etc.?
I don't
Can
think
they come in?
They try to do their job, but they can do it to a limit. It's a problem of corruption that we must deal with. So the minister got a 5 because it is his ministry. At the end of the day, what do Malawians see? We see shoulder works. And this is the age of social media. We are able to share it among ourselves. The bad bridges that are only constructed this year, next month, the bad roads that as soon as they finish constructing them, rains come, then they are kaput.
Did we do some sort of investigation or trying to find out what Mr. Muhango's profession is? Is he an engineer? Is he trained to head such a ministry? That's the question.
Probably not.
Probably not.
What is his background?
Probably we don't know what his background is, and I don't think it's the,
No, there.
I don't
Mr.
think it's the
Kasakula-
context of
there, Mr. Kasakula, Times didn't do it.
he's not. No, I know Mr. Jeb Muhango. I know who he is.
Okay, so what is
What
his
is
background?
He was working for Parliament, I think. I think he's in accounting or something like that, but
Alright.
certainly not as an
So
engineer.
in other words, he doesn't know much about engineering at all.
Not at all.
He has no experience in
Not
engineering.
not at all.
Yet we've put him at the forefront of,
Yes,
of a ministry.
the
that
president,
is
the
important.
president put
terms
him
of
at the
engineering.
forefront. We are not the ones that put him. Don't say
Yeah.
we. The president appointed him as Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure Development.
On what basis?
To me, look, it's not every day that you're going to have. It's not automatic that if you have a doctor at the Minister of Health, then he's going to perform.
No,
What
no,
you need is the experience, the determination, the depth of an individual
But one
to
would
be
argue-
there. Because at the end of the day, they also have technocrats that are going to help them. So to me, it's not really something that we can hammer on as to say what is the
But it helps,
individual.
George.
It
It
helps.
does help,
It
doesn't
does
it?
help. But
Yeah.
it's the individual. It's the individual. What are they made of? What are they made of? Because you might even need an accountant at the Minister of Health. Probably is going to go there and control expenditure and make sure that people are not stealing. He will make a difference.
All right, that may be so. You've talked about in the air transport, Malawi Airlines started making profits, and the airline have since expanded to Kenya, Zanzibar. However, and you've also talked about Kamuzu International Airport having rehabilitation works. But what about Chileka? Let me ask you that. Chileka has been under construction for donkey's years.
Another-
We've seen marginal improvements in terms of the departures lounge. I think we have a better one there. But there's still so much more that could be done. Why should it be so difficult to really rehabilitate something as small as Chileka International Airport? The runway has still not been rehabilitated.
Another blip on the ministry. Probably that's why he's got 5.
Should the runway not have been the first thing
It
to
has
address?
been forever.
Yes.
We have forever been maintaining Shireka Airport. So a problem there. A problem there.
Okay, but you've still given him a 5. Which
A
I think
5.
Fairly generous.
Well,
For the kind of infrastructure that we have in Malawi.
you can say that.
Our
You can say that.
infrastructure
What
is
would you say
appalling.
about feeder roads? Of course, one would argue it's the responsibility of councils, but still.
It's a big problem. I mean, feeder roads, a big problem. Even roads in locations, in cities, a big problem. Quite a big problem. I hope he's listening. He's watching this because that's why he must
Okay.
improve.
All right, we have to move on. Still got quite a few ministries to go through. Next one is a very, very critical one. A very, very important ministry, and that is the Ministry of Agriculture, Irrigation, and Water Development. The ministry that probably made and indeed broke one El Chapo, one George Chaponda, now being headed by Joseph Mwanamveka. He was made of thick stuff to actually accept that appointment.
Well-
given what was behind that ministry.
Well, maybe he didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe the president didn't give him a choice.
Of
He
course,
just
he
said
didn't have a choice.
go and head it.
You don't say no to the president.
You don't.
All
But-
right.
But you can if you want, isn't it?
Really?
Why not?
Okay.
Why
All
not?
right. But we've scored Joseph Mwanamveka a 5 out of 10 or
50%, 50%.
And you've called it Go and Feed My Flock. We obviously say we cannot talk about the economy without mentioning agriculture. As such, the Ministry of Irrigation and Water Development and Agriculture is one of the key ministries. I'm not so sure whether we're actually doing so well as to warrant a 5, given that we are still struggling to really be completely food. What's the word? I'm looking
Secure.
for?
Food sufficiency, yes.
We're still not there yet in terms of food security. We're still struggling to harness irrigation. We talk about it at length. Stakeholders are always banging on about how we need to diversify. Let's go into other areas, but we're still struggling.
I think the many positive this year is that you remember the previous year we had the biggest scandal from this ministry about the importation of maize
Yes.
from Zambia.
That's not the only scandal, yeah.
So there's a bit of sanity, but in terms of what this ministry is supposed to do, there is a big problem. 54 years after independence, this country cannot claim that we are food sufficient. Our agriculture is in shambles.
Yeah.
There's need for big reforms. Tobacco is in shambles. Even in legumes, the market for farmers is not there. The biggest one of them all is irrigation.
Yeah.
We've been talking about irrigation for many, until now. This country is still depending on rain-fed agriculture. And it really affects our economy, isn't it?
Not just that, and we've also been dealing with the 4 armyworm outbreak.
Exactly.
Which we're struggling.
Yeah, we're
to
struggling.
contain.
Yes, we're struggling to contain. So I think to me, if there's a ministry that needs reform, deep reform, the president, even his minister, the one that we are assessing, must pay attention to. It's the reform.
So why have you given him a 5?
Should that start maybe?
Well, that's why he's got a 5. That's why he's not got a 7.
No, but what
For-
is the 5 for?
In terms of the basics of today, what we're supposed to do, they're just doing the average. They need to do more. That's why they have lost the other 5.
Right.
There's need for
So we're doing just enough
just enough, just enough, and this enough
to avert hunger.
Yes,
That's it.
and it's dependent on rainfall. When things like armyworms strike, then we have a problem.
George, what would it take for Malawi to fully accept that we need to have a more comprehensive approach at dealing with climate change? Because I think this is what strikes me as the biggest problem. We are still failing to really accept that climate change is real, and it's manifest in very many ways. Drought, armyworms, etc., etc. These are all effects of climate change.
Where we are failing,
Why can't we adopt?
where we are failing is that we are failing to appreciate that is going to affect us, and that we must not just sit back but do something about it. People laugh at us that we have a whole lake that runs almost the whole length of the country, from the north up to Mangochi. And then from Mangochi, or yes, Mangochi, Luonde, you have another big river that goes all the way to Zambezi. Water. Instead of, people laugh at us to say, Malawi, how can Malawi say you have hunger when you have water that is just wasted to Zambezi? When I go do irrigation. So you are right. The biggest thing that this country can do for itself is to acknowledge those things you are talking about, and at the same time realize that we have an alternative, and the alternative is irrigation. But what are we doing? We're just fumbling.
Why is it minister after minister of agriculture seems to just fail to really implement irrigation? Is it funding? I keep going back to this. Is it a lack of resources? What is it?
It's not lack of resources. It's lack of ability, lack of determination, lack of that spirit of saying, I want to change this for my country. Let's do irrigation. That's what the funders are all over the world. They can fund it.
Okay.
Yes. Green Belt Initiative.
Okay.
We haven't been doing it.
Let's learn this matter. What do you make of the relationship between this government and universities like Luwana, the University of Agriculture and Natural Resources? Because that's where they train agriculture extension officers, etc., to be helping in developing agriculture.
The relationship is obviously bad, because had it been that the relationship is good, these people could have helped us to develop the things that we are talking about. So it means we don't know how to utilize our own people.
Okay.
I know we have experts in irrigation at Bunda College of Agriculture, for example. There's Professor Weo there. He's all over the place writing things about irrigation, criticizing things. Why are we not utilizing him to bring in systems that can do irrigation? Why are we not making him head the Green Belt Initiative?
I think Elvis raises a very valid point, which I think applies to a number of ministries, not just the agriculture, but also health, research. How much can Malawi possibly do to invest in research? Because I think that's part of the solution, isn't it?
Exactly, part of the solution. In terms of training personnel, nobody can afford this country in terms of training of personnel. We have trained everybody. But when they come back, how do we utilize them? In the end, we'll train doctors, we don't employ them.
Okay, let's
How
move
can they
on.
do what they know best?
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Ministry of Gender, Children, Disability and Social Welfare, headed by the lovely Jean Kalirani.
Yes.
I say lovely because I guess that's probably the best way to describe her.
She's a quiet lady.
Yeah,
You look
notice
at
how
her.
even all of us have just changed our tone all of a
You
sudden.
look at her. You don't.
She wouldn't harm a fly, would she?
The only time that she didn't do well for me is when she dressed in DBB colors and she was receiving the president in the United States. But otherwise, she's a harmless.
All right,
So-
that
She's a
being
harmless
said,
lady.
Elvis, is that enough?
Yeah.
Is that really enough? Do we want somebody who wouldn't harm a fly?
Well, where they started from in their analysis is on the matter of promoting gender equality and
Yeah.
protecting the welfare of Malawian women and men and girls and boys to become self-reliant and active participants and beneficiaries of the national development agenda. But then you've got all sorts of problems. Women are
haven't
being
made
married
progress.
off when they're young.
Now that's what we are grappling with. Our girls are being married off at a young age, leaving school. We have even the UN system, UNICEF is worried. We have other NGOs, World Vision, are in the thick of things. And it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's happening. So that is obviously a blip on their performance.
But will gender equality ever be a reality? We've seen the 50-50
it must be a reality. Otherwise, if it's not a reality, then as a country, we're not doing more. You can't have a country where over 50% of the population is still not realizing its potential.
And you say,
countries that have developed, they have taken their women along them to develop.
And you're saying perhaps the other reason why this is happening is because Honorable Jean Kayan is aged.
Yes.
Yes, you pointed that out. I thought that was rather interesting, George. What does that got to do with anything?
What?
Her age.
But we know that when somebody is aged in terms of ability, the body doesn't allow you to do certain things.
But this isn't the kind of ministry that would really need somebody to be necessarily physically astute.
Look, every ministry needs someone who's going to be physically astute. We need to spring chickens in these ministries to run around and change things. You know, the problem in this country is leadership. There's some of them that are interested with leadership. They are way beyond the age where they can perform.
Let's talk about children as well, because
why are you trying to downplay the issue of age? That's why in government, you are supposed to ask to retire.
I was trying to establish the relevance.
Let me come
in government, you ask to retire when you are 55.
All right,
let me come in there and talk about children's rights now.
Yes.
Because that's another matter you're pointing.
Yes.
In previous years, we've seen parliamentarians passing the child trafficking laws to help and curb this problem. Wasn't that enough?
You see, passing of laws and then operationalizing the laws are two different things. I think in this country, in terms of laws, we are doing well. Our parliament has passed almost all the laws that we want them to pass, except of course the electoral bills. But in terms of the laws that improve women welfare, children, the minorities, and what, we are able to pass them. What or the citizenry? The problem has been implementation. For government to move from saying we have the law and then putting in place the necessary infrastructure to make sure that law is in operation, that's where we have failed.
What about collaboration with civil society organizations? We've got civil society organizations that work in these areas, children's rights, women's rights, etc. That collaboration, do you think is also missing maybe something?
It's obviously it's missing. I mean, we haven't reached there. Efforts are there. Let's commend the efforts that are happening now. But what we should be doing is to encourage those efforts to say, no, do more. Let's do more. You are doing this, but look what is happening. You're trying to keep the girl child in school, but look what is happening in communities. Little girls, 14 years, 13 years are being married off because parents are poor or whatever. How is the system improving the whole outlook of a family in the rural area to make sure that they're not as desperate as they can be to even marry off this small girl of theirs?
So, Honorable Jean Kayan has also failed in our performance.
Yes.
Let's move on and talk about the Ministry of Civic Education, Culture and Community Development, headed by Honorable Grace Hume.
Yes.
You're saying she's not always graceful, not
All
always,
right.
yeah? 1 out of 10.
Yes, 10%. If there's a minister that I've always wondered why the president is keeping her in the cabinet, is Grace Hume. I just don't see the value that she gives to the, first of all, to the appointing authority, the president, and then to the citizens. I just don't see it.
But what would argue the mistakes she made were in another ministry altogether?
Yes, but okay, she was taken away from those mistakes and put in another ministry of what? Civic Education, Culture and Community Development. Do you feel any impact?
Well, it's only been a few months, hasn't it?
No, Wezi, you keep on saying about a few months.
Because it's true.
You keep on saying about a few months, and I keep on answering you that you don't need eternity. You don't need eternity to make your mark on what you are doing.
I think, truth be told, if there is one minister who's perhaps or ever misplaced, it's Grace Obama Chume. I mean, initially, remember she was a minister of sport.
Yes.
What knowledge of sport did she initially have?
She claimed that time that she was very, very sporty.
There
in
you go.
School.
And then
she was playing in netball.
And then she was Minister of Home Affairs.
Yes.
And now she's the Minister of Civic Education. Again,
look,
is she really capable?
That's the question. You see, I've argued forever in this program that sometimes it's not really the qualification that one gets out of school that can make them or perform. I mean, a Minister of Civic Education, Culture and Community Development. For anybody who is capable, you just study what is it that this minister is supposed to push, then you push the agenda. Minister of Home Affairs, you are looking after police, isn't it? You are looking after our internal security.
Yeah.
You're making sure that the crime is reduced, working through the police.
Which is why
then
she exercised
then
her rights.
immigration, then prison, they are all under you. The other department is the National Registration Bureau, is also under you. You just make sure that things are moving there. Or was she making things move in those ministers? It wasn't. Or was it the qualification that made her local people in the suit?
Let's isolate Great Obama Chiumi. Let's understand what is she doing in cabinet in the first place? Why is she there?
I don't know.
You've always made
I don't know. You're
allusions
asking
to
the
fact
wrong
that
person.
perhaps
I don't know.
but you have made allusions and you've suggested that perhaps she's just there for political reasons, that she's being favored
To balance up the northern region, to finish, to balance up the quota for northern region ministers.
So you think it's a regional issue?
Yes, it's a regional issue. It's the president trying to balance up the. But I'm sure he can pick someone.
But would you say that about Japi Muhango as well?
Yes, certainly. I mean, it's the balance. Of course, Jamu Hango, at least you see him making an impact, saying wrong things here and there, but still
And Kudo Gondwe?
Well, again,
We'll come to him later.
in
Yeah,
terms of
the point I'm trying to make is you're suggesting that even Obama's appointment was purely on regionalistic lines.
yes, to balance up the cabinet. True.
But are you
I
only
still-
saying
I
that
still-
because she's so poor at her job?
I stand by that. It's regional balance. She's an MP from the north. Jam Hang was an MP from the north. Gudo Gondwe, well, not an MP, he lost, but still very, very influential in the party. So yes, it's balanced to make sure that the northern region is represented.
Okay.
But what I've asked the president, my president, is aren't there other people from the north apart from Obama, for example, who is
Let's-
clearly incompetent?
Okay, let's look at national IDs. That's
Yes.
a very, very big issue.
That's why she was arresting
And
people. That's why she was arresting people that were merely demanding for their money.
Yeah,
To say,
but
we worked, can you pay us our dues?
in terms of sensitization now, because this is a very critical area, isn't it? And this still falls under her ministry, which is civic education.
Now, no.
Even now, no?
In terms of sensitization,
Yes,
yes,
in terms of
probably.
in-
But in terms of the execution, I
Yes,
think
that
it's
was-
the Home Affairs.
That was Home Affairs.
Jazama,
But
yes.
now, in terms of sensitization and making sure people understand the concept of this and how it will also be tied to the election.
She doesn't sensitize
Is
anybody.
she the
I've
best
never.
person to get this done? This something of this scale to make
I
sure
don't.
the
I don't
public-
think. I don't think she's the best person in anything. Whether you make a minister of gods or whatever, I don't think.
Do you have a personal issue against Grace Obama?
I've never met actually. I don't know. I've never. Oh, I saw her. I think I saw her some function that I attended. So I've nothing personal.
Because you've given her the lowest
I
score.
don't have any personal.
We've given her the lowest score.
As Times Group,
Yes.
we have no personal issues against anybody. We don't work on the personal issues. We work on the public issues. We stand for the public. We have given her that score because we think she's not performing as a minister.
Should we-
Okay, someone getting slightly more. Elvis.
Yeah.
Anna Kachiko.
Anna Kachiko.
Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development, who we've given a 20% or 2 out of 10.
That's
Elvis.
right.
Let's talk about land management first of all.
Yes.
There were laws early on to help in dealing with matters of land. Do Malawians have enough land? Those are the questions.
As far as the land is concerned in Malawi, I can confidently speak that Malawians feel land is not being properly administered in this country. Despite the fact that they passed 88 bills, 2 laws are all concerning land. That time it was at Pele Muluzi in the Minister of Land. He was all over the place in Parliament talking about them. We haven't seen any improvement.
What is the reason? What is the problem?
The problem is that Malawians feel for you to get land, then you've got to corrupt somebody. Either at the State Assembly or Malay Housing or landlords or indeed the Minister of Lands. And for you to get your land processed, then you need to corrupt everybody at the Minister of Lands for you to really have some documents for your land. Malawians feel that although the law somehow says land can only be given to Malawians, foreigners are getting land and they're not happy with that. They're getting all the best land in cities.
What about management, housing management services, making sure that people have houses or they're able to get a house and to rent, etc.
Same thing.
Housing corporation.
Same thing. The confidence is very low. Malawians don't have confidence in those things. They think it's just for the connected. You want to buy a house, a government house, whatever, they're just sharing them up. The houses, they're just sharing them up. So there's no confidence. And Anna Kachiko hasn't made any difference since she was appointed. There's nothing really that we can point out to say she has made this difference.
Is this one, in your opinion, on analysis, another political appointee?
Yes, another political appointee. Just put there, probably to reward her for her political loyalty. Get someone from Palombe to be in the cabinet.
So how are institutions such as Mala Housing Corporation supposed to be run, in your opinion?
They're supposed to be run professional. They're professional. They're supposed to. Malawians must see fairness and justice in the services that they get. Any Malawian at random should be able to go to Minister of Lands and get helped by people that are diligent and competent.
There is
Then they will know they are living in a fair and just cut.
there is an initiative under the administration called the Decent and Affordable Housing Subsidy Program, the Malata Subsidy
That's
Program.
another scandal, isn't it? That's another scandal. That's another scandal. A program that was completely misguided right from the start.
One would argue it's getting somebody a house, just like the
Who is getting a house? Supporters of the ruling party. Supporters of the ruling party. In this day and age, can you design a program that you are going to build the houses for people instead of improving the economy and making sure that everybody is able to build their own house? No, it's not true.
All right.
Moving on.
Yeah.
Let's move on swiftly. And I think, again, Elvis, I'm getting all the good ones. This one is another very highly interesting one. This is the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, and that is, of course, headed by Kondwani Nankuma. Wow. As George says, not much to be happy about, but also I don't know whether we can say much, given what has recently happened and how the Ministry of Local Government indeed has been embroiled in this 4 billion kwacha gate. Scandalous. But you say that, or rather we say, the current Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Kondwani Nankuma, has been in cabinet since 2014. He moved to the ministry in August 2015 after serving as the Minister of Information and Communication. However, there are so many little, how can I put it, little hitches that keep occurring in his ministry. Issues to do with traditional authorities,
Yes.
chiefs.
Yes.
Chiefs seem to go unchecked.
Yes.
They seem to be a law unto themselves.
Yes.
And he seems to be struggling to contain that. What's the problem?
No, the problem with that is encouraging that.
Yeah.
As a government and him as the face of government in that sector, he's encouraging that because he's also a politician. Politics. He wants to gain maximum benefit from chiefs in terms of politics, in terms of whether DPP wins next year or not. So that has been the problem. The key problem there is even the way that chiefs have been elevated. It's been strategic from their point of view. Only those chiefs that support us will be elevated, and then the romanization of Machinga, elevating chiefs that are not supposed to be elevated, trying to make them to highlight, make them
So, is it fair to say that chiefs actually wield, and traditional leaders wield more power, far more power than we actually think?
Well, to me, it's in the imagination. I don't think chiefs wield such power.
Well, it seems they determine.
Actually, I've always wondered why our politicians give so much premium to this chieftaincy thing.
But is that not because they're the ones who are in direct contact with the electorate?
Yes, but I can tell you ways. I'm not going to vote for somebody because my chief has told me so. I'll be alone in the voting booth. And if you look at past elections,
okay,
people have voted against their chiefs. They voted MPs. They voted MPs of opposition when their chiefs were busy eating with government and getting things from government.
Okay, let's look at the most recent scandal.
Yes.
The 4 billion kwacha.
Yes.
There have been calls from various quarters for Kondwani Nankuma to resign, given the role he played.
Yes.
He and his counterpart,
Yes.
Minister of Finance Guru Gombe,
Yes.
in this 4 billion kwacha scandal, where we revealed here at the Times Group that money was going to be shared amongst members of parliament.
Yes.
How could Kondwani Nankuma have avoided this mess, in your view?
He could not have avoided it because in terms of his position in the establishment, he's like the central person, the one that deals and deals that does deals with the political deals just to make sure that the interests of government and DP are advanced. So he was at the center of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what
he
I'm
could not have avoided it.
So in other words, it was inevitable.
It was inevitable for him that he
So
went
he
into.
had no influence.
No, but at
in
least
any way.
no.
I just want us to be clear.
You have influence in whatever you are doing. If you are taking decisions, then you cannot come back and say I didn't have influence.
So
he had influence.
Let's talk about the management of city council or councils as well. This has been another problem because there's been observation that money is being misused in councils.
Yes.
Has this made him get this sort of rating in your analysis?
Yes.
Is it
when
part
you
of
look
it?
when you look at the councils and what is happening in the councils, the value that the residents of those councils are getting, I think it's not the value that they should be getting. There's a lot of mismanagement. There's a lot of doing and flowing on key policies that they're supposed to do. All that is because of politics. The only positive thing that we have seen, not so much of it in any way, is maybe the roads here and there. But in terms of the performance of the councils, Malawians have so much to hate about the way their councils are performing.
Okay, we really must move on. So, as much as we would love to sit here and talk about Kondwani Nankuma, especially given his 4 billion kwacha gate, we must move on. Next on the list is the Ministry of Home Affairs and Internal Security under Cecilia Chazama. Home is not that homely. Elvis.
Yeah. First of all, there are cars that have come in from China to help the police with mobility. One would say, yeah.
Well, that's a positive. But as a citizen, I'll get worried that my security, my internal security, should depend on China. When I see a lot of 4x4s on the roads of Malawi, driven by ministers, driven by PSs, but it was only the police, my security as a citizen, that they had got to ask China to help, and then I see my police, it was a Chinese aid. Those cars have that, Chinese aid. I should really get worried.
But didn't she inherit a ministry that was already in a lot of problems, salaries for police officers, etc.
So the question is, what has she done about it? What has she pushed for the police officers? What has she done to make sure that we have enough presence of police on our streets and that they're all motivated? Hasn't she just continued the same culture of her predecessors without doing it? Has she gone to the president and complain and say, look, Mr. President, can you please improve the welfare of police? They are doing a lot for this country. She hasn't done it. It's business as usual. So for her business as usual, that's why she's got a 30%.
Would you want to talk about the immigration department?
It's problems there as usual. Old problems. Passports. They were saying they're
Certain names ring a bell
yes.
when we think about the immigration scandals.
Exactly. They are saying they have reformed. Citizens will be better served. Or one-stop centers, whatever. Do we really see it on the ground?
So what does she need to push, for instance, at the immigration department to make things better?
Push for the reforms. That is the promise Malawians about. Make sure that when Malawians go to blunder immigration office, the service that they are getting is improved.
They have opened other offices as well. In Zuzu, I think they're still opening one.
But with what? Old machines. The machines in Zuzu is always, breaking up without saving the population there. So a lot of things that she must do to improve. Otherwise, she deserves this 30%.
Let's leave it there under that ministry.
Thank you.
We must move on. Another very key ministry is the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs under Samuel Tembunu. Oh, shame. Wow, that says a lot. You've scored him the same score as Grace Obama Chiwumia, a 1 out of 10 or 10%.
Yes.
Even though you said that he did actually start well with Samuel Tembunu in charge of this important ministry, we saw prosecution of Cashgate cases, but you then say the formulation and tabling of electoral reforms bill was an important thing, and although government side shot down its own proposals in parliament regarding electoral reforms bills.
You see, Samuel Tembunu did the first in this country, where his only bills from government that passed through cabinet actually didn't start from cabinet. It even started from the law reform. So law commission, special law commission there on elections. He presented the bills in parliament that his own cabinet approved, and then they get shut down by his own government, his own MPs in government. There's just something wrong in that. There's just too much wheeling and dealing behind the scenes.
Right.
And as Malawians, we don't like that.
In my experience, what I've seen from Samuel Tembunu is a sort of a lack of autonomy in some ways when it comes to issues. Even the 236 billion kwacha audit issue. You remember that there was a lot of back and forth with him saying, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. It seems to me that he's always treading on eggshells, and he doesn't seem to have the confidence to really execute his authority as the Minister of Justice. Would that be fair?
Exactly. He becomes the face of turnarounds
Yes.
by the DPP government.
But it's not very decisive in its
yes,
own right.
so the DPP government promises Malawians in their manifesto that they are going to reform things at the ACB, for example. It's him explaining the turnaround and justifying it, or why you must still have power with the appointing authority. And then he's explaining that. What we see in him is cheating.
All right. Why do you think he struggles or is conflicted in that way? Why does he fail to just be Minister of Justice and autonomous?
Probably it comes with the territory.
Is he fearful?
You cannot be talk of autonomy. It's still part of DPP government. So perhaps he's just at the wrong place, in the wrong position.
Do you think somebody else might have been able to be bolder?
I don't think so. You see, where you can be bored is at the policy level in the cabinet to say, colleagues, what we are doing is wrong. You cannot promise Malawians in our manifesto that we're going to do this, and then we want to change today, and then you expect me to go out there and try to justify this turnaround. It's not on. It's me that is getting the flag.
What about people enjoying their various rights through the laws? Has that been infringed?
Well, we can have one thing to say. It's not the best of it. While the laws on paper, Malawians made sure that we have democracy in this country, so it's down to Malawians. When it comes to implementation, I'm not sure that we have had the best of it. No.
So this is one of those cases where we have somebody who is in fact a legal person in this case,
yes,
but clearly demonstrating that perhaps that doesn't necessarily always work.
Being forced to toe the line of the establishment and getting the flag for it 10% performance.
All right, let's move on. A very important ministry now, the one that's been making headlines for the last few weeks, for over a month in fact, and that is the Ministry of Finance. Elvis, that's yours.
All right. Let's start talking about policy rate by the Reserve Bank. It has been cut 3 times.
What's the rating, first of all, Elvis?
Policy rate.
No, the rating.
The rating is
40%.
40%.
40%.
All
The
right.
policy rate has been cut 3 times within a few months. And that's said to have a bearing on interest rates in banks where people can go and borrow. He performed well on that part, didn't he?
Is it him or is the weather?
Wait, because you're rating him.
Yes, but our headline is that graced by good weather.
Okay, so what's your position?
My position is that I don't think anybody is in charge of our economy. I think our economy is managed by itself. And what manages our economy is the weather. When we have good rains, we have food, then that tends to have an impact on all the fundamentals, the figures that they are always giving us. Even the one that you are talking about, the policy rate. You are talking about the interest rates coming down, policy rate government, then cascading down to the commercial banks. So to us, we should thank the weather. We should always pray to God. We have lost control. Instead of maybe doing irrigation so that our agriculture, which is the backbone of the economy, is not really controlled by the weather, we have not done that for 54 years.
Okay,
yes.
So let's talk about trade, perhaps, because somehow it falls under this ministry as well. Malawi exporting to improve its economy. How would you rate that under Dr. Gudogondo?
No, I don't think there's anything special. As I said, I think the economy is actually controlled itself. It's the weather that controls our economy. I don't think we have made progress in anything at all.
And then recently he was also involved in the 4 billion question.
Exactly.
That
has been the biggest blip on his performance, because we know that was criminal. It was crookedness. The laws are very clear. You can't sit down and start appropriating government money and giving development to selected group of people without approval of Parliament, outside the normal funding models of Parliament.
Is this analysis of the view that perhaps Dr. Gudogondo is also aged?
Yes,
And
age
age
has come into play. He's been a fantastic servant for this country. We've nothing against him personally, but I think there comes a point in life when you don't have to do these over stressful jobs. I tend to worry for him actually when we are writing these stories. The stress that we are causing him, but unfortunately, he's in the firing line. We have no choice. We have no choice but talk about the 4 billion. Wrong was done, so we have got to talk about it.
All right.
Yes.
But Gudogondo was actually somebody who was well placed. Obviously, he's good at his job, or he
Very
was.
good at his job. He's very good at his job initially.
His past was stellar, was it not?
Very, very stellar. We can't take that away from him. Very, very stellar.
So in this case, he was put in the right place. But I think from what we're all saying here, age is what is against him.
Exactly.
In terms of all his projections and these, he's very optimistic projections for the country in terms of the economy improving. Where does he get this optimism from, I wonder?
Well,
where is he getting these figures from? Because everyone seems to then counter what he's saying.
The figures are there. As I said, for example, inflation. Inflation largely is food, isn't it? So the moment you have food, inflation will be controlled, and that tends to affect other fundamentals as well. Yes.
And in terms of his role in the 4 billion kwacha, what is your general take on how he performed there?
I think it has done some great damage, irreparable damage to him. They're trying to control it. It's trying to answer questions and explain it and what the whole system. But at the end of the day, there's nothing much they can do. That was a blunder.
Would you have given him a better score before this 4 billion?
Probably.
Like
probably,
what?
Probably,
maybe what?
Maybe 5.
Maybe 5.
Yeah, 50%.
So this was the final nail in his coffin?
Yes, the final nail in his coffin.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's move on. We're now moving on to deputy ministers. And with the next one is the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Gender, Children, Disability and Social Welfare, Clement Mkumbwa, who obviously answers to Jean Kalirani. What can we say about this individual?
I would have thought that with what you said, that probably Madam Kalirani is maybe, getting no longer the spring chicken that she once was. I would have thought that this one could have filled up that gap. Unfortunately, we don't get to see him. In fact, when we were checking to say, so this minister has a deputy, we didn't have much to say.
Well, can I just ask, what is the point of this? Why do some of these ministries need a deputy? For example, this ministry. We've got bigger ministries that don't have deputies. What is the significance of this?
Probably they were looking at the minister and to say she needs help.
Oh, I see.
To me, the other minister that would need a deputy is the finance ministry.
Yes,
probably.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, finance ministry.
But Godo Gondo doesn't have that kind of assistance.
Yeah, exactly. So probably they were looking at the minister and say perhaps she needs help, but I don't think the help that she's getting.
So what is this rating based on? Given that at the end of the day,
this rating is based on her ministry. It's the same rating that we have given to the gender ministry.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So why are we even bothering to talk about them as deputies?
Well, they are there. They form part of the 20-member cabinet.
All right.
Yes.
Deputy Minister of Defense is up next. Honorable Everton Chimulirenji.
You see, you can't even pronounce the name because he doesn't feature, isn't it? You Google the name. You Google the name.
But you gave him a 5 out of 10, a 50%.
Well, this 50% is coming from his minister, who happens to be the president.
When you look at the Malawi Defense Force, it has done well in representing Malawi during peacekeeping missions, etc. It's quite well behaved.
Yet there are so many stories that we get delay in paying our soldiers, stories about where the money is coming from. Then if you want to talk about the soldiers, even the housing of the soldiers, many of them are living outside barracks because there are no enough houses there. The president promised that the government is seriously thinking of constructing houses for soldiers, many of them. I don't think it has been done. That's where Mr. Everton Chimulirenji would have filled the gap, because the president is the president. He's busy with other things. He would have, stamped himself on this ministry and almost take it as his own, because the president is busy, but he hasn't.
All right.
Yes.
We recently had a story, Elvis. Correct me if I'm wrong. You might want to remind me, where we talked about our should we say our military not being equipped enough to go into UN missions. Do you remember that?
Yes.
What does that say about us in terms of our training?
Probably training is not adequate. Probably investment, what we're investing in the equipment. So we need to do more for the military. Certainly, we need to do more for the military. But I see them now even helping in the constructing of roads. That's a good thing.
That being said, I suppose we should just be grateful that we don't necessarily have the need for the military.
Yes, in terms of real war.
Yes, because Malawi has been relatively
safeguarding
peaceful.
Malawi territory. Yeah, we're at peace with our neighbors, except the pockets of things. Tanzania, for example, over the lake.
So, do you think we could ever justify the investment that you're talking about in the military, like other parts of the world? You need that investment.
You must invest in your military, because you don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. The fact that we are peaceful today, somebody can claim that part of this is for us in
Indeed,
Mozambique.
we have had pockets of unrest on our borders. You remember the incident between Malawi and Mozambique very recently. Would that be perhaps a snapshot into what could potentially happen if we don't bolster our defense?
We need to bolster our defense. Every nation in the world bolsters their defense for the inevitable that can happen,
All
including
right.
what you are referring to.
Okay, well, we are going to have to wrap it up. It's been a marathon.
Yes.
20 ministries to look at, but we've done it, we've critiqued, and I think we have an overall score
Yes.
of the cabinet. And based on the assessment made and the scores of each individual ministry and indeed the ministers who are heading them, we've come up with a total score of 37.5%, which is quite poor.
It's simply put, it's an unperforming cabinet.
Based on our score ratings, that's
Yes.
a pull up your socks, please.
Yes.
That comes under pull up your socks.
Exactly. It's clearly it's an underperforming cabinet. They have got indeed to pull up their socks because I think Malawians deserve more. This is government. The government is there to provide, to lead and provide services to its people in return for the positions that we give them. Very, very lucrative positions that we give them. President, we provide everything for the president, vice president, the ministers. They are driving in those fancy cars.
Okay.
It is for a service.
So, but based on the scoring and that we have here, where we said a 1 was please do us a favor and resign.
Yes, a 10% was
10 to 23.
Yes.
30 to 40 was pull up your socks, please.
Yes.
50 to 60 was okay, you can do better.
Yes.
7 to 8 was
You are a star. Yes.
And 9 to 10 was excellent. Nobody got that. So based on that, we're saying that the likes of Grace Obama Chiumia should resign.
Yes.
Who else got a 1, Elvis?
Samuel
Samuel
Tabene.
Tabene should
Yes.
resign.
Yes.
Saulos Chilima was a star.
Yes.
Based on our assessment.
Sure.
Okay. Do you think we should hope for something better for the next year? We only have a year to go before the election.
Even for their own sake.
What does the future hold?
Even for their own sake, they better pull up their socks because next year Malawians are going to the polls, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll look at the performance of the president and his cabinet. We'll say, has it served us better? Do they deserve another contract from us as citizens?
When you rate this assessment and last year's, how would you rate it in comparison?
I think it's the performance is more or less the same. I don't think we can say actually it might even be worse. As Malawians, we don't seem to get the required service that we want to get from our cabinet, so they can do better.
Elvis, last thoughts.
Yeah, there have been questions in some quarters of the society. Even the authorities have questioned. Do you have a right to form this opinion? What do you say?
We have every right to form this opinion, and I'm happy that you have asked that question.
Note how he said opinion.
As a media
emphasized
house, we have a right to form that opinion. We enlighten the people. We are telling them that you elected these people to office. This is how they are doing that job. And by the way, this opinion, we don't have to form it after doing a rigorous study, going to college and doing a rigorous academic study. No, we are citizens. We are citizens. But also as a media house, it is our role to do what we are doing. So we have every right.
You're providing checks and balances.
We are providing checks and balances, yes.
Okay.
Making them to improve.
Okay.
All right. On that note, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this year's 2018 edition of the Cabinet Assessment, forming part of a special program on Hot Current. From me, Wezi Kasambala, a big thank you to Times Group Editor-in-Chief, none other than George Kasakula, and of course, my dear colleague on the left-hand side, Elvis
Can I say
HowaHowa.
my name myself?
Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Elvis HowaHowa.
Elvis HowaHowa there. Until next year, we will be back for another assessment where we will be criticizing and critiquing and indeed shining a light on the performance of the various ministries that indeed form the fabric of this country. From me, Wezi Kasambala, here at Times TV. Until next time, it's goodbye.